I should have listened to Roman. He came to me 3 times that night. The first was in the kitchen, while the others were going up to their rooms. He touched my elbow and said, "Vera, I need to tell you something. Something I've been carrying for 20 years. I told him tomorrow. That I was tired. That the whiskey was talking for him." The second time he knocked on my door. It was almost midnight. I heard his knuckles against the wood, soft, almost timid. I didn't open. The third time he slid a note under the door. I didn't read it until the next morning. It said, "I know who you are. And I know who hurt you." All 3 times I told him tomorrow. There was no tomorrow for Roman. The scream woke us all. Or so we said afterward. It was 3 in the morning. I know because I looked at the clock before getting up. There's a habit you develop when you spend 20 years investigating something. You time everything. The hour, the direction of the sound, the seconds it takes you to react. It wasn't a scream of fear. It was a scream of surprise. Brief. Cut short. Like a sentence someone starts and another person finishes with a hand over the mouth. I stepped into the hallway. Celia's door was already open. I saw her standing in the threshold, barefoot, hair loose, and I thought it was the first time I'd seen her without her armor of professionalism. She looked like a 6 to 7-year-old woman, not a forensic psychologist. She looked like someone who had just heard something she'd been waiting decades to hear. Martin came out next. Then Inns, with the camera hanging from her neck even at 3 in the morning. Hugo was the last. He'd put on his jacket. At 3 in the morning, Hugo Ariat had gotten dressed before coming out. I noted that detail. I filed it where I file everything, in the list of things that seem insignificant and aren't. Roman's door was open. The bed rumpled, the sheets on the floor. His jacket hanging from the back of the chair. The whiskey bottle on the nightstand, half full. But Roman wasn't there. Lola appeared at the foot of the staircase. She wasn't coming from her room. She was coming from below. From the basement or the kitchen, I don't know. She looked up and said, with that voice she had of old sea and wet stone, "The lantern door is open." We went up in single file. 112 steps spiraling to the lantern room. I'd counted them on the first day, when Lola gave us the tour. 112 steps that turned counterclockwise, as if the lighthouse wanted to rewind time each time someone climbed them. Martin went first. It's curious, the man who would vomit when he got to the top was the first to climb. There was something in Martin that ran on inertia. When fear should have paralyzed him, his legs kept moving, as if they were used to not thinking. I was behind Celia. I counted her breaths. They were regular, measured. 14 per minute. Mine were at 22. Inns's, climbing behind me, something close to a continuous pant. Hugo brought up the rear. I didn't hear his footsteps. He climbed as if he knew exactly what he was going to find at the top. The wind poured through the open lantern door with an almost solid violence. It wasn't blowing, it was pushing. As if the entire Atlantic wanted to force its way through that opening and carry something away. Or return something. Martin stopped on the last step. He said nothing. He just stepped aside. And I saw it. Roman was lying in front of the window. Face up. Eyes open. I had seen death before. At 18, on a steel table at the hospital in C, I identified my father's body. I knew the impossible stillness of a lifeless body, that absence of movement that is more than immobility, that is the very negation of everything it means to be alive. Roman had that stillness. But his expression wasn't one of pain. It wasn't one of fear. It was surprise. As if death had told him something unexpected in the last second. As if he had understood something he'd spent 20 years not understanding, and the understanding had cost him his life. There was no blood. There was no weapon. There were no visible marks on his body. Only a man of 55 lying on the floor of a lighthouse, with the expression of someone who has finally seen what he didn't want to see. And on the glass of the window, at the eye height of a standing man, scratched with something sharp in irregular but legible letters, a message. The sea gives back what it is owed. The letters scored the surface of the glass. Someone had used something metallic, a nail, perhaps, or the tip of a knife. The stroke was steady. There was no trembling. Whoever wrote that wasn't afraid. The sea roared on the other side of the words. What happened next was revealing. Not because of what each person did, but because of the order in which they did it. In screamed. It was a short scream, a reflex, as if her body needed to expel something before her mind could process it. Then she backed against the wall and stayed there, the camera pressed against her chest like a shield. Martin vomited. He turned toward the stairwell and vomited without making a sound, with the terrible efficiency of a body that responds when the mind has disconnected. Then he wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and didn't move. Celia knelt beside the body. She didn't think about it. She didn't decide to. It was automatic, a gesture engraved in the muscle memory of decades of forensic work. I watched her hands move over Roman without touching him, evaluating, measuring, cataloging. The psychologist had vanished. The forensic examiner had returned. And Hugo said, "Don't touch anything." With perfect calm. With the voice of someone who has rehearsed composure until it has become a second skin. He looked at the body. He looked at the message on the glass. He looked at each one of us. And I didn't see surprise in his eyes. I saw something worse. I saw relief. It was a flash. Less than a second. The micro-expression that precedes control. But I had spent 20 years training myself to see what people hide behind what they show, and I saw it. Hugo was relieved that Roman was dead. I filed that fact where I file everything else. In the safe I keep behind my eyes. In the place where evidence accumulates and waits for its moment. Celia spoke without looking up from the body. There are no visible marks of violence. No contusions, no wounds. It could be cardiac arrest. At his age, with his alcohol consumption, it's the simplest explanation. She paused. She stood up. She looked at her hands as if they weren't hers. But a man who dies of a heart attack doesn't write a message on the glass. Unless he wrote it before he died, said Hugo. Quickly. Too quickly. Celia looked at him. It was a long, professional look, the look of someone who has spent 40 years evaluating whether people are telling the truth. Before he died, he came up to the lantern room in the middle of the night, scratched a cryptic message into the glass, and then conveniently died of a heart attack. In that order. Hugo didn't respond. Someone was with him, said Celia. Someone came up with him or found him here and didn't call for help. And that someone either wrote the message or watched him write it and did nothing. Martin, from the stairwell, face grey. Are you saying someone killed him? I'm saying a dead man didn't write that. Celia pointed at the glass. And I'm saying that whoever did knew exactly what those words meant. Hugo proposed locking the lantern room. Wait for the storm to pass. Call the Guardia Civil. We're not investigators. We're not police. This is a crime scene and every second we spend here we're contaminating it. It was reasonable. It was logical. It was exactly what a lawyer with experience in controlling situations would say. And it was exactly what someone who needed no one to look too closely would say. We went down. Lola locked the door. The metal turned in the lock like a sentence. In the common room, with the wind lashing the windows and the rain falling horizontally, we sat around the table. 6 people. 12 hours ago we were 7. Who went up to the lantern last night? I asked. Silence. I went to bed at 11, said Hugo. I didn't move until the scream. I was reading until 1, said Celia. I fell asleep with the light on. I couldn't sleep, said Martin. But I didn't leave my room. I was editing photos, said Inns. Without looking at anyone. They were all lying. I knew it because I was lying too. Because I had been awake until 2, sitting by my room window, watching the lantern beam sweep the Black Sea, thinking about the 3 times Roman had tried to talk to me and the 3 times I'd shut the door on him. But there was something else. There was a detail that didn't fit. Roman weighed at least 90 kilos. If someone had killed him up there, they'd climbed 112 steps with him or found him there. Why would Roman go up to the lantern at 3 in the morning in the middle of a storm? Unless someone had asked him to come up. Unless he trusted that person. Roman trusted very few people. But he tried to talk to me 3 times. Who else might he have spoken to? Lola hadn't participated in the discussion. She stood by the window, watching the sea that couldn't be seen behind the curtain of rain. When she turned, her face was that of someone who has carried a weight for 20 years and feels it crushing her a little more. She whispered something in Galician. So softly that only I caught it. Zarves, Amoro. Zarves. You see now, Amoro. You see. I knew that name before I knew my own surname. It's the name my mother whispered in her sleep. The name engraved on the headstone I visited every 15th of November. The name that had been my compass and my curse for 20 years. Amoro. My father. Lola had said it as you speak to someone who is in the room. As if my father could hear. As if the lighthouse were a telephone to the dead and she had spent 2 decades leaving messages no one picks up. I said nothing. Not yet. I still had the mask on. I was still Vera Dovel, translator from Santiago, mysterious guest who doesn't know why she's here. But Lola looked at me. And in her eyes I saw something that took my breath away. She had recognized me. That night I went down to the basement. I needed to be alone. I needed a place where the walls had no ears and the wind didn't seep through every crack like an invisible witness. The lighthouse basement smelled of old salt and rusted metal. The generators hummed with the irregular rhythm of machines about to give up. I ran my hand over the wall. I touched the 6 marks Inns had found the day before. 6 vertical lines carved into the stone. 1 for each dead man. My fingertips traced them like someone reading Braille. Like someone deciphering a message written in the oldest language in the world, guilt. And then I saw the door. I'd seen it before. Lola had pointed it out on the first day. Storage. Nothing interesting. It was locked with an old padlock. But now the padlock hung open. And the door was ajar. 1 centimeter. Just enough for a line of darkness denser than the hallways to slip through. I should have gone back upstairs. I should have called someone. But I'd spent 20 years opening doors no one wanted opened. I pushed. The room was small. 3 meters by 3. No windows. It smelled of old paper and ancient dampness, of time locked away and forgotten. There were metal shelves with boxes, rusted tools, coils of marine rope. And on the floor, as if someone had left it there on purpose, a metal box. It wasn't locked. The lid yielded with a groan of hinges that hadn't moved in years. Inside were newspaper clippings. Yellowed, fragile, with that sweet, sad smell that paper has when it starts to die. I took them out carefully. With the translator's hands that no old words break if you squeeze them too hard. The first clipping was a front page. La Voz de Galicia. The date, the 15th of November, 20 years ago. The headline, in letters that time had darkened but not erased. Below it, a photo of the Santa Lucia taken before the sinking. My father's boat. I recognized the bow, the cabin, The blue color of the gunnel that my mother always said was the same blue as my father's eyes. The same blue as mine. There were more clippings. The account of the accident. The official statements. The report that closed the case. The names of the dead. The names I knew by heart, that I'd repeated every night before sleep the way others repeat prayers. But beneath the clippings there was something else. A folded sheet. Different paper, whiter, more recent. I unfolded it. It was a list. Written by hand, in clear, steady handwriting. 7 names. Vera Duvall. Roman Casol. Celia Bravo. Martin Largo. Ins Sedera. Hugo Iriot. Lola Vila. Our names. All 7. And below the list, a single sentence. Everyone knows. No one speaks. I stayed in the basement until the damp soaked through to my bones. Not because of the cold. Because of the certainty. Here in the hospital, my therapist often asks me at what point I knew things had spun out of control. I tell her it was when we found Roman dead. It's a lie. It was in the basement. With the list in my hands. Because that list meant someone else had investigated the same thing I had. Someone else had connected the 7 names. Someone else had reached the same conclusions. And that someone had gotten there first. The sea keeps roaring outside the lighthouse. A man has died with a message scratched into the glass. Everyone is lying. And in my hands, 7 names that shouldn't be together on any list. But they are. And I know why. What I still don't know is who else knows. The next chapter will unlock when we reach 20. 20 people who know this story. 20 witnesses. Subscribe. Not out of curiosity, because secrets no one hears end up killing.